when I finished college, I was realistic with myself, and I was like, okay, that goal is not attainable unless, something incredible happens. When I played in the East Coast League, like maybe the pro game translated better or something. And so I basically told myself I'd give myself 2 years over here in the US, and then I would do 1 year in Europe. And in that time, I would use all the downtime and the off seasons to build my network, try things, and just really gave myself a long landing strip to finish out playing, know when the end was, and kind of try a bunch of things along the way. So I knew it wasn't ever something where I was like, oh, do I want to keep doing this or what's next? It was like I knew kind of when the end was going to be, and all the decisions I made leading up to that were in preparation to hit the ground running once it finished.
What's going on, everyone? I think, Tom, we are live. Welcome to Pucks to Properties. I don't know what episode this is, but we got Tom Mealy. We got our guest, Brett Beebe. Thanks, Brett, for taking the time on our day. You're on the West Coast, so it's early over there. So welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Just like we started off every episode that we do, the purpose of this is obviously to give back to the athlete community, to show them that there is life after sports. A lot of us obviously go into a little funk, depression, whatever the hell you want to call it. But right when we retire or decide that, what are we going to do next in our lives? So this is the purpose of this podcast. So we are ready to rock and roll. Tom, anything at the beginning?
Good morning. Thanks for being here, Brett. It's, we had to reschedule you a couple times for a bunch of variety of reasons, the time change, location, but we're happy we got you on. And obviously you and I played together, or not together, against each other early on in our careers. And it's a name I always remembered. And, when I don't even know where I saw that you were doing stuff in real estate now, is like, he'd be the perfect fit for our show and the platform and the coaching program we're putting together here over the next few years. And, we're excited to have you here. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, making it work with the schedule. And Tom, likewise, hated playing against you, but glad to know you on this side of things.
Hey,
let's see, what kind of player was Tom? A bender, Brett, or what kind of player was Tom?
No, I think the thing with Tom is you knew what you were going to get every game, and it wasn't necessarily fun to play against. He was a bit of an agitator, and just played hard and played the right way. And, I'm sure that's why you're having success. Life after hockey is, you did things the right way on the ice. So, I think, those are the things that translate to business success too, or at least what I've seen from guys that played, is the guys that trained the right way and took it seriously and, showed up to the rink every day, excited to work hard, are the same guys that are willing to do the little shit that it takes to, be successful in real estate or coaching or whatever else it is that you're doing. It seriously it translates so much.
Nice. I agree 100%.
Appreciate the kind words, brother. It's one of those things where, and I'm just going to piggyback on that and kind of, obviously, it's the testament to you as well. We didn't play against each other that long, but we're from that same age group of guys, whether it be junior, Division I, and then a few years pro, and you were a name that always stood out to me, and for your skill set, your work ethic, and now having the opportunity to have you here and chat about the life after hockey and the business world and see if we could help each other. That's the reason why we started what we're doing. So Bob, rock and roll.
Yeah, let's dig into this. Yeah, we got a lot to dig into because Brett, you have a pretty cool resume coming up. You went to Western Michigan for 4 years. After that, you played 3 years pro, 2 years here in the U.S., and 1 year where you tore it up in Germany. in Hanover, Germany. Dude, tell us about that experience. That was a minimum. How many transfers? What do they call it? What do they call it?
Yeah,
they call it transfers,
imports or whatever. I think
imports,
they have a few more in that league now, and you know what? It was an awesome league, and I still follow it. I still follow the Scorpions team that I played on. The owner was great. You know, they used to be a DEL team, so there's a lot of they had won the DEL championship a couple times, and there was a ton of hockey history there. And the owner now, his family had owned it back when they were in the DEL. So when I got there, he was basically like, "Hey, there's a 5-year plan to get back, you know, close to there." And he's like, "I want you to be a part of helping us get, you know, moved up." And I'm like, 5 years, like maybe like 1 or 2, and then, you know, you guys, good luck. But it was great. It was hilarious at times. You know, when I was younger, I was a guy that got a lot of points in Bantam and midget, and then getting to junior, everyone else is so good. You kind of have to take on a different role. And in Germany, I kind of just got to play, and no one, you know, the coach spoke a little bit of English, but, you know, not enough to tell me like, don't turn pucks over, or like, hey, don't do that. It was just kind of like, if you score, great. If you don't, like, just go back out again. And then, like, he also, coaching wasn't his only job. He was the town, like, butcher. So, like, he would show up to practice in the afternoons, and he'd have, like, you know, blood and meat soaked shirts and jeans, and he'd have a bottle of Jaeger in the office. And, like, one day we came in for practice, and he was passed out in his chair with an empty bottle of Jaeger on his desk. And so, yeah, it was kind of a free for all. But they've got you know, they're doing really well. I think they've been towards the top of the league the last couple of years, which is cool.
So the takeaway of that is that, so everyone who's looking to go over in Europe, there are different types of leagues. There's, you know, the top league, second league, third league, fourth league. There's a shit ton of leagues out there. So I played 4 years in Europe. So it's actually pretty interesting, because you have individuals that work full time that also play hockey part time, I should say. So just do know that.
Well, yeah, like the third league in Germany is where I played, and so it's taken very seriously. Like, a lot of, like, we had a couple thousand fans at games, and a lot of the teams had a really good following. It's more of the smaller towns. It's not the, you know, the DEL and the DEL2 teams are in bigger cities, so they fill the stands. But these are like smaller towns, and it's cool. Like, we would walk to the rink. You know, it was a small town outside of a big city, so it was fun. We got treated extremely well, and, you know, I would encourage guys that are, you know, finishing up college, and if an opportunity presented itself over there in a league like this, like, do it for a year or two, and it's basically you know.
Is that your dog in the background, Brett?
Yeah, hold on. He opened the door. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. He's mad at me. Hold on 1 second.
I thought your stomach was growling over. I thought his stomach was growling over there. I'm like, what the hell is it in the background? I don't know if it was you, Mealy, or someone in the office.
No, he knows how to he knows how to open the door. So I've got to, like, lock it, and I didn't lock it, so he was just sitting there growling at me.
So Brett, let's dig into that, because you know, you played 3 years. What made you look at life after? Because obviously, you know, the owner said, hey, there's a 5-year plan. You could play here for 5 years. You know, I had the same opportunity too, just to keep playing and playing and playing. But, you know, you're only making X amount of money. You're not making a shit ton of money. So what was your thought process, and why didn't you stay?
So, you know, realistically, like, my goal as a kid was to play in the NHL. Like, that was my goal. My goal wasn't to play hockey until I couldn't play hockey anymore, or basically just see how long I could go. So when I finished college, I was realistic with myself, and I was like, okay, you know, that goal is not attainable unless, you know, something incredible happens. You know, when I played in the East Coast League, like, maybe the pro game translated better or something. And so I basically told myself I'd give myself 2 years over here in the US, and then I would do 1 year in Europe. And in that time, I would use all the downtime and the off seasons to build my network, try things, and just really gave myself a long landing strip to finish out playing, know when the end was, and kind of try a bunch of things along the way. So I knew it wasn't ever something where I was like, oh, do I want to keep doing this or what's next? It was like I knew kind of when the end was going to be, and all the decisions I made leading up to that were in preparation to hit the ground running once it finished.
So you went to 4-year school. What degree, or did you not get a degree?
Yeah, I was communications and general business.
So what did you do? What did you do like to prepare for life after? How did you pick? You know, because you stayed in hockey too, as a coach, you have camps in the summer, etc. So tell us a little bit about that. What was going through your mind?
Sure. So being involved in hockey after being finished playing was not really ever something that I intended to do. Like I never had the desire to be a coach. I never thought that, that was what I wanted to do after. But I started after college, knowing that I was going to be, playing for a few years. I started a summer camp for kids in California. Mm-hmm. And I had worked like the local camps for a few years when I was home from junior college. And so I was like, oh, I'll start my own thing. After college, I can market myself a little bit. And we had like 18 kids, I think was our first year. It was me and 2 other guys. And it gained some traction. We made a little bit of money to pay the rent. Luckily, we were living with Bo Bennett, who had been in his second year in the NHL at that point. And Bo was nice enough to let us live in his summer house here in Hermosa Beach that we called the soup kitchen because he was the one that just fed us all the time. So luckily I had that. But then that kind of took on a life of its own and sort of let me, it actually helped me learn about business a lot more. Like I was having to learn how to market. I was having to learn how to grow it. So we went from 18 kids the first year to, we had 2 groups the second year. I think we had 60 kids. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe we take it somewhere. So I found that Utah was like the 4th fastest hockey growing market in the country. So we went to Park City and we're like, hey, we're going to do a camp. We had like 120.
Great city too, right? Great city.
I was like, hey, well, maybe we turn it into a golf/coaching trip. So it honestly kind of changed the dynamic of what I was going to do after hockey, because I had done some recruiting for a company while I was playing. Like when I'd get home from practice, I'd jump on the phones and LinkedIn and everything else.
Good for you.
I did. Sure. I always kind of stayed busy and just tried things. But the hockey camps were growing. Like we were actually making like good money and we were getting traction. And I saw there was a market for, good people in the sport and, and just doing it the right way and being, cost appropriate and not charging an arm and a leg. And so we built this great following and we're still doing it. And honestly, I turned down a couple pretty cool job offers because I was able to keep doing the hockey camps, and real estate kind of fit into being able to continue to do hockey. So now our camp and tournament team program has we average about 800 to 900 players between April and August at our different events.
Nice.
And we could do more. It's just, I honestly just don't have the time or the staff. And then it kind of has parlayed, and now I coach with the LA Junior Kings in the winter season. So you meet a lot of people that way. And that has parlayed itself into the real estate world where I work with, a number of the NHL players that are here, a lot of the youth hockey families, and then their networks. So it was, just kind of tying a lot of things that I really cared about into each other.
So you stayed, interesting thing is you stayed in hockey right away, but your idea was still business, and you did work in other avenues while you still played, which is pretty cool. So I think that's a huge takeaway because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I think we have so much downtime, right? When we're playing, whether you're in the East Coast League or whether you're even in the American League or whatever else, like you absolutely have to take care of yourself, and that's number one. But being realistic too about the time that you do have and how you're spending it. Like I would come home and I had a notebook that I still have in my office that just had like business ideas that I would just sit at home and I'd like actually like I'd bring it on the bus with me. I would take it everywhere and I would just write things down. I'd have an idea and I just write it down. And then once I started the camps, I was like, okay, so I spent a lot of time, calling around to coaches and being like, hey, send us some of your players. We'll, if there's any kids that you think, would want to do it but need help financially, like we'll give you a free kid for every 2 or 3 that you send to us. And then that started the whole like nonprofit side of things. And when I was in Germany, I had been working for a recruiting company the off season prior that a friend of mine had started a few years ago. And I really enjoyed it. I was getting paid for every person that I put in a company. I was normally working with a lot of medical device sales companies. So hockey guys like, out the wazoo are going to, Stryker, Medtronic, all those companies.
And that's a great fit. That's a great fit.
So I was recruiting for this recruiting company and my main clients was Stryker. And so I actually kept doing it while I was in Germany. So we would practice at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. I'd go home from practice, have dinner, and then I'd be on the phone and on LinkedIn till like 4 o'clock in the morning. Because that was, daytime in the US. And then I'd go to sleep at, 4 and wake up at 10 or 11 and then go work out and do everything I needed to do there. So I had a weird schedule, but was able to like keep doing it. That company ended up getting bought by Google. And I was thinking about just going and working with them. And I ultimately didn't, partly because of the hockey camps. And that's sort of what got me into real estate.
Yep. I love it. I mean, you look at that, it's 800, 900 players on average per year is a lot of players, right? The cool thing with you is obviously you're an entrepreneur. Let's call it what it is. You're still working with this recruiting company while you're playing. And I think that is a huge takeaway for anybody who still plays this game. And that's something that I screwed up on, right? I mean, I played for 8 years after, and I could have easily started working while I was playing. And so I basically put a pause on my life for 8 years by playing hockey. Hey, trust me, it was awesome. I would never undo any year at all, but there's a lot of downtime.
And I think that not everyone, and it's not the worst thing in the world to not do something. You're going to have 40 years worth of work to do afterwards. Like, I don't think anyone should beat themselves up over not doing stuff while they're playing. Like I just can't sit still. So like I need to be doing something. Other people like they're like being totally bought into what you're doing is also really important. Like if you're all in on hockey and you're all in on being where your feet are, then do that. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I think the one thing though is as athletes and as people that play a sport, like one thing that I would really suggest for everyone that's still playing or thinking about playing for a little bit after is like meet as many people as you possibly can while you're playing, because you have access to more people at that time, whether it's in a small town in the middle of nowhere or you're in a big city or you're just home for the summers. Like there's so many groups out there that have networking events and companies that want to hire athletes and stuff, and like get out of your comfort zone and go try some of that stuff. And I think you can eliminate a lot of the things that you don't want to do just by trying and learning about them. And then maybe there's some areas of interest that you can maybe pursue a little bit while you're playing to learn more about it.
And you're not always going to be relevant. That's one important thing that I learned when you're playing. Yeah. When you're there, you're relevant. When you're gone, you're not relevant anymore. So to your point, you have to use it while you're there. Yeah. You have to use the opportunity, right?
Yeah, so, and take advantage. Okay. Like I was gonna say, like take advantage of what you have while you're playing. Like, if there's a company or something that you're interested in. Like I remember. When I was playing in Ontario, my first year, it was only an hour away from home. So I would meet people that I had no business interacting with. Like they're, hedge fund managers or, manage, multi-million, private wealth portfolios. And I'd be like, hey, would you guys want tickets to, a game? And I would get them 4 tickets. They're like $20 each, but it was like going out of your way to like do that. And you meet these people and you now have communication with them, and you just did them a little bit of a favor, and maybe they'll, do something for you in the future. And like, it's cool. Even for a lot of people, like it's cool to know somebody that's playing in the game, even if it's not at the NHL level.
Right. It's true. That is 100% true. So I know, Tom, you have a bunch of questions. I have a couple more. So you started with the camps. What got you into real estate? Like what got your mind saying, all right, I have camps, I'm working this, this month and this month, but what really got you into it?
I think as we all get a little bit older, we start, you learn about where people make their money and how people make their money and what they do with it when they have it. And so you start to learn more and more about how, real estate is such a great way to build wealth and to, to set up, generational wealth and stuff. So I definitely I wanted to learn more about it. So I started, getting my license. And then I actually, just more for the sake of learning, again, I had downtime, so I decided to get it. And I was home for the summer, and one of the sponsors of my camps every year was an old coach of mine who was doing residential real estate in Manhattan and Hermosa Beach here. And so when I was home for the summer, I met with him to, secure another sponsorship. And he's like, well, what are you doing after you play this year? And I was like, I'm still trying to figure it out. And he goes, why don't you come work with me? And I was like, oh, okay. So I finished the season. He paid for me to get my license and all the expenses that came with it. And I found that all the jobs that I was thinking about, whether it be med device sales or the Google situation or a couple of the other things, all of them were going to take me out of California, and were going to take me, somewhere where I didn't necessarily want to leave home again because my whole family was here. And the real estate opportunity gave me an opportunity to stay home. So I shadowed him for about a month or so, learned what the day-to-day would be, and I got really intrigued. So I talked to him about doing it for 6 months and seeing how it would go with no strings attached, and fell in love with it.
Nice. And you got it. So you do, that led to working with agents around the country, right? What got you into the next level? So you became an agent, and then what made you get the idea?
Yeah. So we're actually still working together. My partner, Ryan, and I, we work for a company that got bought by Douglas Elliman. Douglas Elliman's the guys that you see on, $1 million listing and all that stuff. So right away we had a big network of people. As Compass grew, the company that we work for now, they have a sports and entertainment division. I noticed myself, starting to work with more athletes. Like as I did more business, some of my friends that were hockey players started to ask more questions and things like that. Noticed there was, I've got a lot of friends in the big agencies that are based out here in California, whether it be CAA, O2K, Wasserman, whatever else. I'm like, man, maybe if I had a better network of those people, I could, continue to take this thing. So we joined Compass. They have this great sports and entertainment network with agents around the country that you have to be accepted into. And now I work with, guys are, get traded from LA to somewhere else. We help them move. Guys are coming into LA for the summer. We help them get rentals. Whatever else. We kind of, it's sort of nationwide now, which is it's a lot of fun.
Nice. And what kind of how's that communication go? So how do you get referred? Do you get referred to people and then you just call other agents? Is that how that works?
Yeah. So it just depends. Like, I'll use one guy for an example because I conned him into coaching. But Matt Gilroy was a guy that played in the NHL for a little while, and
he's a Beebe guy, right?
What's that? BU guy.
I went to high school with him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So Matt, I get a call from a friend of mine who's in Florida, former hockey player as well. And he was like, hey, I need you to do a real estate deal for Matt Gilroy and his wife. And his wife works for Fox as a sideline reporter. And so she was based here in LA. And so I met them. Matt was actually on Zoom in his bed in Switzerland, and I was in a suit, and he makes fun of me to this day. He goes, you didn't have to interview, like you had the job. I was like, all right, well, whatever.
What do you mean by interview?
Well, like a listing presentation for his
Okay.
to sell his condo. But like I also hadn't met them before or ever talked to them. So like
Okay.
I show up in a suit and Jenny, his wife, was like, "Hi." And Matt's like in bed and the sheets pulled up over him on Zoom, like being like, "Hey man, you don't have to wear a suit. Like you got this." And so they ended up becoming very close friends, and I've done a few deals with them since. But Matt was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. So I was like, if you want to try coaching, like I'll get you involved. He ended up going through like a Harvard MBA program that's like for ex-athletes. He hated the business world. So he called me and goes, "Fine, I'll try it." 2 years later, he decides that he wants to do it at a higher level, and he just got hired by the NTDP to be their assistant coach for the U17 team. So,
Cool.
Another guy that had no idea what he was going to do afterwards and just sort of figured it out by trying stuff.
Yep. Love it, dude. Love it.
So that's how it works. You get a phone call, and then at the end of the day, they're 3 years later, they've got a new profession that they're in because you networked with them.
Yeah, that's the takeaway right there. I mean, the way you navigated it, though, it didn't start just with one thing. It started, you started your camp, and then you added to it, and you added to it, and you added to it, and you asked questions, you met people, etc. So the network is freaking huge.
I think you just like anything else in life or in work or whatever. I think anytime you provide value for people, the more consistent you can be with providing value to people, the more opportunities are going to become available. And doing things without the expectation of things in return just continues to be something that I've tried to focus on. And if good things happen, they happen.
So so if you look at, and I know this might be a tough question to answer, but if you look at, if I'm a player and I'm looking at what exactly you do, you have camps and you do real estate. So
Sure.
what would be the income, percentage that you make coming into your household? You don't have to give numbers, but for, because you do both of them in essence full time.
Yeah. It's taken a lot of work to have that balance, and it's still a work in progress. I think before I get to that, I would just say that, I think the biggest thing when you're finishing up, and we're so bad at it as hockey players and as men, and I still work on it all the time, is asking for help. And I wouldn't be in this position if I didn't have two of my buddies that I was running the camps with that could do things for me while I'm doing real estate stuff, or same thing on the real estate side, like the guy I work with and our assistant. Like if I didn't have them, I couldn't do the hockey stuff. So I'm not like sitting here doing all of this by myself. And then I work with an executive coach a couple times a month to like help me balance those things. So some months are more heavy in one and some are more heavy in the other. Like the camps, like we have a sprint for about a month, and my girlfriend hates it because she just doesn't see me. But we knock out our camps during the week, and we do tournament teams on the weekend. And basically my partner and my assistant kind of handle all of the real estate stuff during that time.
Yep.
And then it slows down a little bit, and you can, I know that I need to block off 2 hours for hockey stuff. So I make sure that, setting expectations with clients or whatever else is, hey, I'm not going to be available from this time to this time on these days. If you need something, call these guys. And so when you can set up the schedule like that and whatnot, it does make it a lot more manageable. But I think starting out, like hockey was definitely the bigger part of it because I just didn't have that many clients. And now it's kind of going the other way where I'm passing more of the hockey stuff on to other guys and then focusing more on the real estate.
And I love it because that's exactly how that works when you start building businesses up, right? So you're owning a couple different businesses in essence, what you do, right? So that's a good takeaway. And a couple things. I know Tom, I'll let you jump in here, but working with partners and us as hockey players, think about this. There's not one player that's going to win every game for you. You need a team behind you. So that's a huge takeaway for everybody, because a lot of people that jump in business, they think of it more selfishly rather than saying, hey, listen, if you actually add another person to help you out and you do partnerships, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money in the long run rather than doing everything yourself.
Well, and I also think when you walk into the locker room as a young guy, as a rookie, as a whatever, like you don't go in there expecting to, know how to do everything. Like you find veteran guys that have, that are willing to help you out and willing to, help you succeed. And you find those guys and you emulate what they're doing and their habits and stuff like that. And then, conversely, you have you always have a coach and they're there to steer the organization. But like, if you go seek out help from them, whether it be film or, hey, I'm not understanding this or whatever else, like they're going to help you. And so, that's one thing that I think for me was the biggest thing is I've had so much help, but I've had to ask for that help and swallow pride to do it. But then the other side of that token is now I'm trying to help out as many people as possible that are coming up and stuff like that. So I had so many good people that helped. So
ability to give back is great, right?
Yeah. And I think Tom, I know, you and I were kind of on a similar path. Like, and I know you did this a lot but like, I think when you're a hockey player, you're also used to being in communities where you can do some of that community service stuff. You can, go visit a kid in the hospital, or you can do an appearance somewhere or whatever. And it means a lot to those people in that community. And you lose that when you don't have it anymore. So this is kind of that new way to sort of get that satisfaction out of, what you're doing with work is, exactly what you guys are doing, helping the next player who might be watching one of your podcasts be like, okay, life after hockey isn't as scary as I think it might be.
Yep. Tom, so I know you got a couple questions here. I know we're coming on a 30-minute mark.
Yep. No. So the biggest takeaway from all that for me was essentially you saying after college, there was a moment where, I don't know if it was over a few months or a year, where you realized the NHL wasn't attainable. I don't know if it was because of the lifestyle you saw on the coast. I'm looking at, your resume going down to the SP, how, you're only technically on paper 1 or 2 levels away from the NHL, but you might as well be, a lifetime away. And I think that guys kind of early on in their career are still tunnel driven, what can I do? And when we talk about this sometimes too, is, my biggest regret is not doing what you did, is essentially planning for the next phase while I was still playing. And, you talk about while you were still working, while you were playing in Germany, and essentially using the time change, using the fact that here we practice at 10 a.m. over there they practice at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Basically altering your whole lifestyle and having that discipline to stay up till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to do business here in the U.S., sleep till whenever, and get your rest so that you could actually perform on the ice at whether it be practice, game, or whatever. And that to me is, I wouldn't have even thought of that. It would either be party and stay up all hours of the night hanging out, and just basically,
I did do some of that. Like, don't get me wrong.
Traveling, but I think it's a testament to athletes. I mean, hockey players are just wired differently in terms of discipline and time management. Yeah. I think that's why real estate and business in general, hockey players are, and this is not me tooting their horns, but it's a different, you're dealing with a different breed, you're dealing with a different beast. And what my question for you would be, why do you think that hockey players are, whether it be 1099 real estate or independent contractor, anything where you're on your own and there's no safety net, and
Yeah.
why do you think we adapt so well to that?
Well, there's two things. One I want to touch on is like right before, when you were talking earlier, like I don't know that like the way I did it sounds great in theory, and it has led to some early success in my business career. I don't think there's anything wrong with like going all in on playing hockey. Like there are stories of guys that are undrafted that play in the coast that do everything they need to do to make it to the NHL, and they find a way, or they get closer, whatever, or they make a career out of Europe. I'm not saying like be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like it was just for me personally, I was realistic with myself, and just, you know, knowing what I knew, I just knew I wasn't going to, and I knew no matter what I did, I didn't think there was a path forward to get there. For some guys, if you see that path, even if it's a small one, like, and you want to go for it, there's nothing wrong with going for it. But I think having hard, honest conversations with yourself is really hard to do, and sometimes we avoid those. So for me, it was just maybe I had that conversation earlier with myself than some other guys do. But as far as like why guys are wired like that, I think there's a simple answer for it, and I think that I talk about this with a lot of our kids as they're going off to junior or college or whatever else. Hockey is of the major sports, for the most part, is really the one that you can't get to just by doing it yourself. Like you can go out and shoot pucks and stick handle or whatever else and work out, but like somebody has to take you to the rink when you're a kid. Somebody has to pay for it. Somebody has to, really help push you to be a hockey player. Once you're old enough to sort of take over some of the training on your own, that's one thing. But like, kids that play basketball, you can just grab a basketball and go to the park and shoot hoops until you can't shoot anymore. So I think hockey players have a humility about them, that success and what it requires is not just about me, but all the people that helped get me there. And I'm not going to let them down because they sacrificed for me to get there. So I think when you have that, I don't think you necessarily realize it till you're a little bit older. But you know, what kid doesn't play better when mom and dad are in the stands, whether it's when they're a kid or, when it's parents' weekend in college or whatever else, like, and, or maybe you didn't have the best parent situation, but maybe like some family stepped up and took you in to help you have success. Like there's hundreds of those stories. And so I think when we're the easiest people to let down, right? Like letting myself down is easy, but letting other people around me down is hard. So I think that innate kind of nature that we have, I think is really what drives that success. Is not, if you're part of an organization, you don't want to let anybody down. If somebody believes in you, like you're gonna prove to them that their belief was worth it. So long-winded answer to a short question.
No,
that's a very good answer.
Completely agree. And not taking things for granted and being grateful for opportunities, whether it be when I was playing, a coach or a scout taking a chance on me, or now even in business, with these guys I see every day that gave me an opportunity to make that transition.
Yeah.
I don't want to let them down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because they gave me an opportunity. So,
I think and I don't think that's every single guy, right? Like there's some guys that everything's handed to them till a certain age, but I think as hockey players, especially if you're not the 1%, you deal with adversity a lot earlier on than a lot of other people. So handling that adversity starting at 13, 14, 15 years old versus the first time that you face adversity is not getting your first job out of college. You kind of learn how to handle that stuff better.
Yep.
Perfect.
Love it. Tom, I know we're getting to 40 minutes. I want to make sure that we respect your time, Brett, as well. Any last questions, Tom?
I know you're with Compass now, which is, pretty big firm and sexy out in Hermosa Beach and, Manhattan Beach and all that. Were you with a smaller, mom and pop before?
Yeah. So we were with, Compass is great because of the networking and the marketing and everything else that we have. We were with a company called TELUS that was only in California and only on the coast. Could do stuff. You could do business anywhere. They were acquired by Douglas Elliman. So we kind of got pushed into being with a bigger company, and DE was great. But Compass offered a little bit more. I think there's benefits to both being in the mom and pop, brokerage that has 2 offices. And then I think that, there's benefits to other stuff. So I don't know that one's better than the other, but I think anyone that's like interested in getting into real estate, the biggest mistake you can make, in my opinion, is doing it on your own. Find a team that's successful, that's willing to train you and show you the ropes. And if that's at a bigger company like a Compass or, somebody else, then great. If it's at, a brokerage that has 5 agents, but they're going to help you have success, then do that.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Tom, anything else?
No, I think that's great. What do you got?
All right. No, we'll just wrap it up, Brett. I appreciate it. I mean, your story is actually really, really, there's a lot of individuals that are in your same position, right? One good takeaway that I love is that you started seeing things earlier than later, right? It took me a long time. I played 8 years. I should have saw it after my 4th year when I finally went to Europe, because my goal was to make the NHL. But, as soon as you go to Europe, the challenge or the opportunity to come back and make the NHL is very difficult, right? But start looking at things to do in the summertime. Start reading books, right? You brought a notebook with you, and you jotted down your ideas, which is a fantastic idea for anybody that's playing right now. So great takeaways, and I appreciate you jumping on this call, and we're definitely impressed by what you're doing. And is it okay if people reach out to you that have questions about maybe running a camp or jumping into real estate or anything like that?
100%. And the last thing on that, Bob, too, is we all play a lot of golf in the summers and the off season or whatever. Play golf, play golf with people that are doing stuff that you might be interested in. Take a financial advisor to golf, take a real estate guy to golf, take a coach to golf. Go enjoy your off season and have fun, but like meet a couple of people when you do it. And like maybe someone gives you an opportunity just from, that interaction.
Love it. Great takeaway. So best way to reach out to you.
Yeah. Email is probably the easiest, and brett@ryanshawgroup.com. And then I'll get back to anybody, right away on that. I'm happy to give out phone number and all that stuff if needed to.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Brett, thanks a lot for taking the time of your day. Tom, thank you very much. That's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.